On this trip, I'm belly deep in the mud and muck of the Mississippi Delta, hunting ducks with these two Louisiana boys, Jean-Paul Bourgeois and Ronnie Collins.
There you go, Steve. First Louisiana dougry.
In just one trip, we're gonna load our boat with more waterfowl species than I'd normally get in a few years, including some you might never have even heard of.
Nice shot.
After that, these guys are gonna show me what they like to do with these delicious birds by whipping up a classic bayou stew known as a rotie,
Oh, that smells good.
topped with a traditional crawfish boil.
That's one of the better things I've had in a long, long time.
Get your waders on. This is Cajun country.
I like it.
I've followed trails of all kinds, pursuing wild game through our country's wildest places. These are my stories.
There you go.
These are my people. I'm Stephen Rinella, and this is MeatEater.
So if you boys were going to describe to someone like, let's say someone was from way up north, where we're at right now, what would you say?
Down at the bottom of the river.
Yeah, the very end, man. This is the end of the road.
I mean, like the very bottom of the Mississippi River.
Yeah, so like for one turn you're in the Gulf, the other turn you're in the Mississippi River, man. And that's what makes this place so special. That's why the ducks want to come here.
Yeah.
Provides food, cover, resting places. Got a lot of refuge and reserves here.
If you had to guess, like, how many species of ducks, geese, like huntable birds do you see in here?
I've made many hunts here where I've killed close to 8 or 9 different species in one hunt.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have the whole spectrum. Lots of pintail, lots of green-winged teal, handful of widgeon, a few divers, and quite a few geese.
Do that list in French, like how you boys do.
Some paillonquin, which is pintail, some sasel, which is the teal, some zinzin, which is the widgeon, and some tête rouge in there, some redheads, and mighty poodle.
You know?
So did you guys grow up hearing a lot of the French names for the ducks?
I learned a lot from Ronnie just from hanging out with him for a couple days.
I tell you what one duck I hope we kill today is a miquin,
What's
the
What's that?
mighty shoveler.
Oh. Do you like those shovelers?
Oh, I love them.
I told him, you take the miquin, I'll shoot the mallard. I'm fine with that. I would like this area, probably in terms of Louisiana hunting, it's probably the most diverse in waterfowl species in the state.
If you walk up to some random duck hunter on the street and ask them to name 2 or 3 of the nation's ultimate waterfowl destinations, chances are you're going to hear about South Louisiana down on the Mississippi Delta. That's because this is the end point for North America's most heavily trafficked migration corridor, the Mississippi Flyway. After a long journey south, millions of ducks and geese settle in here for the winter. Unfortunately, a lot of hurricanes travel through here as well, and we're hunting amid the wreckage and recovery from Hurricane Ida. This trip would not have happened if I hadn't met this here fella, Ronnie Collins, while spearfishing down here earlier in the summer. He invited me to join him for ducks, and we rounded out our party with my friend, Chef Jean-Paul Bourgeois. Ronnie is a lifelong outdoorsman, hunter, trapper, angler, spearfisherman, frog gigger, you name it, as well as a passionate wild game cook. JP, on the other hand, is a formally trained chef who has worked around the world, but has always maintained a passion for the Louisiana cuisine he grew up on. This morning, Ronnie has taken us deep into the Delta National Wildlife Refuge, 49,000 acres of protected wetlands surrounding Venice, Louisiana. That's the very last inhabited town directly on the Mississippi River before it spills into the Gulf of Mexico. We can only go so far with a prop engine before running out of water. The final stretch of marsh between here and our intended hunting spot will be covered with chest waders, pulling along our gear and decoys and pirogues. Think of these as canoes with an incredibly shallow draft. You could almost paddle these things across a wet lawn. We're also using pirogues to transport vegetation that we cut in the marsh in order to make an artificial island, so to speak, that will serve as our hunting blind.
So start filling that in.
The willows don't want to stand, but neither do I.
It was a little light on that back corner there.
Back here?
Yeah.
The mud here feels like you're struggling through a giant chocolate smoothie with a bunch of peanut butter settled out in the bottom. It's exhausting just getting your feet unstuck in order to take a step. Keeping some momentum once you do get going is a whole other story. Staying in one place too long, and you have a hell of a time getting going again.
Woo, get deep out here, boy.
Yep.
Oh, man.
I'm telling you, bro.
That's the pit of doom.
Y'all doing a great job, boys.
With the decoys out and our blind constructed, we just have to wait until 30 minutes before legal sunrise, which puts legal shooting light at 6:15.
5 minutes.
The birds are already gathering, teasing us as the seconds tick away.
Oh, my Lord. Wow. Okay, ready.
Until that magic moment hits.
Let's go. Touch him up. All right, Steve, here they come back. On you. Come on, Belle. Good girl.
Right here, right here.
Go. Drop. Look at that, dude. Jesus, look at that cotton top. I think, in my opinion, that's probably the tastiest stuff.
Beautiful.
Oh, man, nice. That's a lucky duck, man.
He died, though. Drop. Drop.
Drop. That teal took some lead.
It's crazy. That breeze starts blowing, the birds start moving.
Man, I cannot believe your guys' ability to have this many birds, species, and to identify them. Like, I can sort 2 kinds out, but I can't. To be able to sort that many out on the wing is hard, man.
How would you compare it to, like other places that you've hunted for waterfowl?
You know, usually we're sorting out mallards and pintails, or you're sorting out mallards and teal. It's not that you're sorting out.
The whole spectrum?
Yeah, so it's like your sight picture is kind of how you're visualizing it normally. Is like a cleaner division.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's that duck and that duck, right? This has been a little bit like, whoa.
A little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Get a pintail. Yeah!
Right.
I like it. Look at that green wing, boy.
Good girl. That bird, back.
I mean, look, that cinnamon head, that green streak, it's just a pretty little bird, huh? Talk about good eating, too.
About as tender as they get right there.
You know what's, I think, pretty special about duck hunting is that you never get a close-up of ducks unless you shoot them. And then you can really admire, like, how pretty they are.
Let's kill him. Kill that widgeon, straight on top.
Nice shot.
Right here.
Well done, sir.
About 2 hours later, we've all reached our limit of ducks.
Growing up, man, we always had good duck hunting, but you always hear about like duck hunting in Louisiana, man.
So, we're done, which is great, but we're on super low tide, and that means digging yourself out of that muck, go and get decoys, and get the heck out of here. Oh, it's a struggle. This is what makes Venice one of the hardest hunting in America.
Shooting a few limits of ducks involves a sizable plucking job. Ronnie is very specific on how he likes to clean them, and step 1 of the process calls for a rough pluck.
Yeah, play the wind here. So, Ronnie,
Yes, sir.
there's people I love in this life that breast out ducks.
Mm-hmm.
Hate the sin, not the sinner.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not into breasting ducks.
No. I will not breast a duck.
What breasting means is there's a horrible habit among bird hunters in general of taking whatever they got and just cutting the skin away, peeling it away, cut this little breast fillet out, and then pitch the whole freaking bird. They don't keep the skin, they don't keep the fat, they don't keep the legs.
Gizzard. Should be against the law to throw away a gizzard.
Breasting ducks. I think it's a bad idea.
In my opinion, if you were gonna breast the bird, cook it however you want to breast the bird, but still save the legs.
Oh yeah, I don't care about
Save the backbone.
Dude, I part my turkeys out, use the parts for what they're best for, but it doesn't mean you gotta throw it in freaking garbage.
Yeah.
I'd quarter my ducks, make a pure leg and gizzard rotie.
Yep.
What's the word you're saying?
Rotie?
What's that mean?
Rotie duck is like it's just really.
It's like a Cajun dish?
Yeah, it's like stewed duck. Like it's just.
He's like a slow cook in a Dutch oven kind of thing.
So to be legal for transport, you either gotta leave on a fully feathered head, which we got right here, okay? So you'd be like, oh, that's Drake Gadwall. Or a fully feathered wing has to be on the body. So his head's on the body or his wing's on the body. And someone that knows what they're looking at can determine species and sex on that bird off a fully feathered wing or off a fully feathered head.
Step 2 requires a big pot of boiling water in order to get a clean pluck.
On warm ducks, I like to do 10 to 12 seconds. The biggest thing, you don't want to overdo it because then the skin starts to peel and it becomes a mess.
You know, I've done boiling for, like domestic chickens, domestic turkeys,
Yeah.
but I've never done, and when I've tried to do ducks, I never like rough plucked them first.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just found it was real messy.
Yeah.
But this way, where you get the bulk of the feathers off, it's not nearly as messy. And it still has that same effect where it causes those little follicles to release the feathers real nice.
Yeah. And then those pin feathers, all the little, not quite developed feathers that are pain to pluck, they come out real easy. We call a pin feather a poussin.
Step 3 involves flame, where you do the final cleanup on any pin feathers, as well as those little hair-like feathers called phyloplumes.
Last thing we're gonna do is burn off these little hairs. And you guys got a fancy French word for that.
Griller.
That's right. We just say, burn them off.
It's real quick, you're just gonna take it and pass it on each side. That's it.
Beautiful. Oh man, look at that now.
Look at that.
One last final wipe down, and you move on to pulling your hearts and gizzards.
Gizzard, that's what we call it. That's the French term for the gizzard. I'll show you a little trick that you ain't gonna do, probably cut your gizzard processing time in half.
Ronnie then shows me a real time-saving tip on how to get most of the good parts of a gizzard without needing to cut the thing open and clean away all the grit on the inside.
Find that big knot right there and just
Just get the parts.
get right under the pot. Boom.
And you're not doing knife up on all that gravel either.
Much more efficient.
I eventually wind up with that, but I just take a roundabout way to get there.
The next day, we're back in our homemade blind for some more of the same. As they say, don't leave ducks to find ducks.
Nice shot.
There's some teal. Let's kill this pintail.
Nice.
Crippled up on panties.
Where's that, boys?
There you go, Steve. Your first Louisiana Dogry.
What's the word dogry?
Dogry is a grayback, also known as the scout, or the dog.
The duck of many names.
Mm-hmm. That's a good one, Steve.
Yeah, big.
Big old pretty gavel.
Not too shot up.
Nice drake, ring neck.
Generally, good duck hunting is associated with wind and rain and atmospheric nastiness. But here, you get something of an opposite effect. As a front starts to roll in, the birds pretty much shut right off. Things die way down.
Yeah, like this is normally like non-stop.
Just having overcast, wind.
All right, Steve, you ready to call it?
I'm good to call it.
Yeah, I think we did good here. And we got enough work to do after this.
Pretty good though, still, man. Yeah. You can't compare every day to the best day. It's gotta be like on its own merit, pretty damn good day.
That's why they call it hunting and not killing.
Oh, I knew that was gonna come.
I'm sure if we stuck it out, we'd get another bird or two, but
Yeah. As soon as we unload, you know what's gonna happen, though.
that's why I'm not gonna unload.
Is that goose? Hi, bird? Let's go.
Nice.
Oh, yeah, baby. Nice shot,
That was good.
Steve.
That was good calling,
shot,
man.
Just as we said, we're gonna
Start picking.
unload and pick
Man,
up.
that thing, you turned that
When
thing,
I
man.
honked at him, he went, what?
That was amazing.
That was awesome. That's the shot you want to end the hunt.
Now I'm gonna unload.
Now we're
Now
gonna
we can unload.
Yep. What a call. What a shot. What a last bird.
The next day, the boys take me west to an area called Bayou Black to look for a bird called a Gallinule.
We're gonna go try to shoot some Gallinule right down this little Trinity through these cypress trees and see if we can get a little dinner for tonight.
They're similar to coots, which I'm very familiar with, but are much more highly regarded as table fare. They hang out in the shallows, using thick vegetation to evade their predators. They're as much inclined to run for cover as fly for cover, so the strategy is to slowly paddle the sloughs and channels in a pirogue and get whatever shots you can get however you get them.
Good shot, good shot.
It feels like a boat-based version of flushing upland birds.
So we see you got one over there?
Yeah.
It's a good one.
There you go.
Dinner, or at least a nice healthy snack.
Told my wife, I said, I'm not spending $5, $6 a pound for crawfish anymore. And she was a little upset when I decided to build this. She don't complain no more.
No. You got $15,000 worth of crawfish.
Never bought another crawfish.
The birds were what I came here for, but I didn't want to come all this way and miss that signature Cajun dish. Those small freshwater crustaceans known as crayfish, crawfish, crawdads, crawdaddies, you name it.
How many are we looking to get?
Let's try and get a sack or so.
Sack is about 30 to 40 pounds, Ronnie, you'd say?
Yeah, on average.
So I just want the biggest ones.
Save all these, or move on to the next trap.
These are all keepers.
That's all keepers.
Ronnie, being the well-connected sort of Cajun concierge that he is, just so happens to have a neighbor with his very own crawfish pond, where he raises the mud bugs for the enjoyment and sustenance of friends and family. His name is Bud Guidry.
We call them crayfish where I'm from. You ever hear that?
Yeah.
You don't like that?
No.
You guys ever call them crawdads?
Sometimes, but not really.
I would like to say what I call them sometimes, but I won't because the camera's running.
Whisper it to me.
Son of a bitch.
Bud has built his own little ecosystem here, with a pond he dug himself and planted with rice. The crawfish feed on the rice, growing fat and happy, and harvest time is as simple as setting some traps. The most important part of what I said there, if you ask Bud, is rice.
Let's say you had a pond with no rice and a pond with rice, and you fed one pond fish and you fed one pond rice. Which crayfish is gonna taste better?
100% rice pond crawfish.
My wife won't eat crawfish that's been baited with fish.
I'm the same way.
It affects the flavor.
Yes.
Yeah, and the smell.
Honestly, man, this is something that prior to coming down here, I had no idea that there was a thing that you would basically have like a crawfish garden. That a family for their own use would make a pond, and I don't know, it never occurred to me. What's that, 40 pounds?
Should be anywhere from 35 to 40 a full sack.
Yeah, it's like if you had a 40-pound beaver, it'd feel like that. That's impressive, man.
So we got to do a traditional Cajun-style crawfish boil now.
All right.
I think we're ready for that.
With all of our proteins procured, it's time to get to work turning them into something delicious.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start by following right alongside that breastbone. I'm gonna split them down the middle and I'm gonna debone them.
That's nice, clean knife work, man. I hope all those duck breasters at home are watching this so they see how it's properly done.
I'm gonna leave the leg bone and the wing bone.
That's what it's supposed to look like. Beautiful.
By splitting them and deboning them, I'm able to find and get those claws out so that way you don't crack a tooth, which is the BB.
pellet, yeah.
Pellet.
Huh. Tell me that word again?
Claw.
Got it.
Ronnie's fixing to whip up a very traditional duck stew that he calls a rotie.
Let's say you're gonna have one duck, and that's the last duck you'll ever eat. How would you cook that duck?
Rotie.
You would.
And what duck would that be?
A sisal.
Blue-winged teal.
I'm gonna brown the ducks first, cook down the fat, and I'm gonna take the gizzards and the hearts, and I'm gonna throw them in with my Trinity, and I'm gonna brown them all together in the duck fat.
Like many food cultures, Cajun cuisine has its own go-to base of vegetables, what Ronnie and JP call the Trinity.
Onion, celery, and bell pepper goes in just about every Cajun dish that we have. The Trinity refers to the Christian roots of this area of Louisiana and so on. Plus you got garlic, which is a lot of people call the Pope because of his little white hat. And it's usually like a 2 to 1 to 1 onion, celery, bell pepper ratio, with onion being the majority.
I only recently started calling it the Trinity.
What'd you used to call it?
Rotie duck, and I threw some onions and some bell peppers and some celery in there.
Is this one of those dishes that you guys argue about whether or not it's okay to put certain things into, or is it pretty much like, do what you want to do?
So like everyone who's gonna cook a rotie is gonna cook it their own way.
Yeah.
I mean, I know some people who actually don't put the Trinity in. When I do this dish, I prefer to cook just one species of duck, because if you start mixing big ducks and little ducks, I find you get a inconsistency with tenderness.
Makes sense. What happens with the skin?
It's gonna get kind of crispy. The skin's the most important part. Without the skin, in my opinion, it's not a true rotie.
Once everything's browned and sauteed, Ronnie combines it all, adds some broth and seasonings, and throws the whole thing in the oven where it's gonna simmer for several hours. With our rotie slow cooking inside, JP sets to work on that crawfish boil.
You used to have a job boiling crawfish?
It's my first job.
So you got taters, sausage, all kinds of citrus, onions, celery, mushrooms.
Yeah.
Damn.
JP lets that broth develop for about an hour, and then it's time to add the star, or rather the many stars, of the show.
Well, now what I like to do, dump my crawfish in, bring it up to a boil, and then boil for 3 minutes and shut it off. And right when you get them in, you kind of want to use that paddle, get them to stir down, push them down. I'm gonna crank it back up. All right, that's gonna come back up to a boil. Once it does, I'm gonna time it for 3 minutes. Then we got the soak, which is, in my opinion, the most important part of boiling crawfish.
post-boil
The
soak.
post-boil soak. 'Cause I like juicy crawfish. Once they start boiling, they'll float. And then when you shut it off, as you let them soak, they sink. And that cavity is just absorbing that liquid, making them less buoyant.
Got it.
So right when this comes up to a boil, I'll also add some corn. All right, let it go.
How long does the soak gotta last?
Because I'm gonna add a little scoop of ice and stop the cooking method, I'm gonna soak for about 30 minutes.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Our crawfish are soaking, and our rotie is closing in on its final minutes. Plenty of time for a quick little appetizer.
All right, guys, we put a hurting on some Gallinule. And we got some breasts. I put a little marinade on them. I'm thinking, put them on a kebab, skewer them up, piece of meat down, and they got also duck hearts right there. And then we got those wonderful oyster mushrooms or champignons, grill them up, keep it simple.
Love it. Not as good as that.
Oh, you got like a little tail feather right there.
Paintbrush, it's like tail feather, that's right.
These Gallinule have a really nice looking breast.
I was real impressed, man. Hunting them, I kept thinking how they reminded me of grouse. You know?
Yeah.
Kind of like working the edges of the thick stuff, running around like that, and they have a gregarious sort of nature like a grouse does.
That's an interesting takeaway. I mean, I haven't had Gallinule since I was probably 10, 12 years old. He's looking pretty good. My goal is to just get good, hot and fast grilling right on top of that fire, nice direct heat. Yeah, like these are done.
Yeah, it was really, really good.
That is excellent. Yeah. Blown away how much I like this. It's not like what I remember as a kid because we were always cooking it in a gumbo or a stew till it falls apart, but having it this mid-rare.
The hearts are spectacular.
Man.
I've never grilled an oyster mushroom like that. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of my favorites.
It's a good bird, man.
Yeah. I'm going to do more of those. The Gallinule breasts were good, but I'm ready to get into some of these boys too.
Oh, that looks cool, man.
All right, so I grab this crawfish right here.
Okay.
I'm gonna break it.
Okay.
And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna grab the head and I'm gonna push with my thumb to break the shell, and I'm gonna suck the head. And then pinch the tail and,
Those are good, man.
yeah. And from not using fish for bait and being there in a rice pond, you just taste that clean crawfish. You know?
Damn, man. That's one of the better things I've had in a long, long time.
Oh, Ronnie, I know we got crawfish. I'm really excited for that routine.
I know I want to dig into the duck now.
I think that's the main event. All the effort we put into duck hunting these last few days, it all comes together in that pot.
Oh, yeah. All right, Steve, ready to try some of this rotie duck?
Oh, that smells good. Man,
I'm real curious about what happens to the skin when you guys do this to it. Oh, I thought that skin would be like a tire, but it's not. It just
Falls apart.
Yeah. Oh, that's impressive.
So, Steve, I know you like to cook your duck rare,
I like to barely cook them.
barely cooked. What'd you think about this low and slow cooking?
I like it. I think in wild game cooking, there's like two problems people have. You cooked it too long, or you didn't cook it long enough. But this is like the long enough, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's freaking delicious, man.
Uh-oh.
Duck burrow?
Wait a minute. In my family, when you find a pellet, you gotta kiss the cook. I don't wanna make you uncomfortable.
Do it. Prove it.
Sorry, put that on hold. I don't know if I told you, but this was my 50th state. When I came here this summer, this is the one state I'd never been to. Came here, and I was like, I am not done with that place.
Yeah.
And am already back.
I mean, I think some Louisianans would say, like, what the hell took you so long?
Oh, that's
It makes me super proud.
I'll tell you what took me so long.
You know?
I had 2 trips get canceled because of hurricanes.
Well,
I'm telling you, this trip I packed in more firsts than I've encountered in a long time. Between like the Gallinule, that people have like a crawfish pond that they take care of like a garden. Eating that, all the Cajun dishes, I'm coming back, love it.